Welcome to Death, Lies, and Alibis. I'm your host, Christy, and this is the podcast that dives deep into the dark and eerie world of local cold cases. Today, we're in Morgan County. It's a small, lovely county in the heart of Ohio. It's bustling with tight-knit neighborhoods, friendly faces, and a sense of security that you expect from any small county. But beneath the idyllic surface lies a hidden darkness, a collection of unanswered questions that have lingered over the years. So grab your headphones, lock your doors, and be prepared to enter a world where the truth has invaded everyone. There's a stretch of winding back road in Morgan County, Ohio. It's the kind of place where the trees don't just stand, they lean in, like they're guarding something. In the dead of winter, the air feels heavier, like it's carrying something you can't see, but you can feel all the way in your bones. And the quiet there, it's not peaceful. It's the kind that settles deep in your chest, and it makes you notice your own breathing. This is where Crystal Ann Corbin lived, and this is where she disappeared. Crystal wasn't loud, and she wasn't flashy. She kept her circle small, just a few close friends. She was the kind of woman who kept to herself, but if she trusted you, she'd let you in all the way. She had her routines, coffee first, her medicine second, and a little peace and quiet to start the day. She had two sons, Matt and Shannon, and she had a husband she'd been with for over 20 years, Jerry Corbin, a man her boys once saw as a father figure. But something had shifted inside that house, and whatever it was enough to make Crystal vanish. It was just after Christmas, December 27th, 2016. One day, Crystal was home, and the next, she was gone. No goodbye. Her purse was left behind. Her car was still sitting in the driveway. But her phone was missing. And for Crystal herself, well, she was nowhere to be found. No one saw her leave, so no one knows if she ever got a chance to leave. Now, this is the story of a woman who vanished and the trail of missing pieces she left behind. But to understand what happened to Crystal, we have to go back. Go back to the day everything came undone. December 27, 2016. On Lightner Ridge Road, it was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that makes your own heartbeat sound too loud. Crystal was supposed to be home, but when her son Shannon tried calling, every call went straight to voicemail. Not a single ring. It was constantly just going to voicemail. And phone records later showed that nothing was unusual. There was no strange numbers, no 911 calls, no outgoing texts at all. Just silence, like someone had hit pause on her life. The last confirmed sighting of Crystal was the day before, December 26th, and that was caught on Walmart's security cameras. And she was out running errands, looking normal, looking like herself. And then, less than 24 hours later, she couldn't be reached. Now, Jerry's story, according to Crystal's family, it didn't help. At first, he allegedly said that she left with someone while he was at work. And then she was leaving him for good. She got fed up and she just left him. Later, the story was that he allegedly changed and now that she was just taking a trip. But he couldn't say where or with who. There was no names, no details, and no proof. And here's what sticks. Jerry didn't even report Crystal missing right away. Matt told me that Jerry waited 3 whole days. And when he finally did, it wasn't because he wanted to. It was because her family pushed him to. And when deputies came out, like we said, Crystal's car was still in the driveway. Her phone, her ID, and her debit card, they were all gone. That's strange. Because her purse, it was empty, but it was hanging on a doorknob, like where she put it. You know, we always have that same spot. Well, it was sitting there, but it was empty. That was wrong, not right. Something just was not right in that house. There were signs, small, strange, and heartbreaking signs. They were just the first scattered pieces in a much darker puzzle. 3 days before she vanished, Christmas Day, Crystal's son Matt and his family stopped by, like they always did. But this time, something felt off. Crystal didn't come out to greet them right away. She stayed in her room for almost 20 minutes. There was no hug, no smile, no, hey, baby. Now, that wasn't like her. When she finally did come out, Matt noticed something in her eyes. Her pupils were tiny, and her energy, it felt wrong. She seemed wired, anxious, like her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. Jerry brushed it off. He said it was her pain meds, like, she'd been overprescribed. But Matt didn't buy it. He knew his mom. And this wasn't just side effects. Still, even then, Crystal showed up for her grandsons. These boys were her heart. She rocked them to sleep, went to their school plays, knew their favorite snacks, collars, and cartoons. Even when her hands ached from neuropathy, she'd hold them tight. Matt remembers her doodling little hearts and loops while sitting in her chair, her days of our lives playing in the background. But the second those boys came running through the door yelling, Grandma, Grandma, the pin dropped and her arms opened wide. Those kids weren't just part of her life. They were the part that kept her going. And that Christmas was the last time Matt ever saw his mom. And behind that wrapping paper and those smiles, something dark was already moving through that house. And it wasn't done yet. Before Crystal ever disappeared, the house on Lightner Ridge Road was already falling apart. And not just the walls. The people inside were breaking too. Jerry had a prescription for Percocet. But according to Shannon, Crystal's other son, Jerry wasn't just using them, he was abusing them. Crystal had her own prescription for pain meds too, for her neuropathy. That burning, unbearable pain in her hands and her feet. Even with the pills, though, the pain never really stopped. But over time, something changed. The pills weren't just for the pain anymore. Now, let me pause here, folks. I battled addiction. I know what that spiral feels like. And I know some of you listening out there, you do too. And back then, in towns like ours, that opioid crisis, it wasn't just a wave, it was a flood. And doctors, they weren't just our healers, they were our dealers. Prescriptions turned into prisons. And that's the part of why this case cuts so deep. The family would later learn Crystal may have started using the harder substances. It shocked them because she wasn't even a drinker. She didn't party. That wasn't her. At the same time, Shannon was fighting his own battle. He checked into rehab just days before she went missing. That house, it wasn't a home anymore. Shannon said almost everyone coming through, except for Matt and Crystal, had active warrants. It wasn't a front door, it was a revolving one. And after Crystal vanished, Jerry moved new people in. A woman we're just going to call Jay, a man we'll call 3, and someone's Ma. And according to Shannon, they weren't house guests. He believes they were Jerry's plug, and that's a dealer. And he said that it was the hard stuff, fentanyl, meth. He believes it was the hard stuff, allegedly flowing right through the same house Crystal once kept safe for her grandbabies. Now, he believed there was overrun with addiction and abuse. And Crystal, she lived on Social Security barely enough to survive, right? And I was told that she wanted out of the marriage, out of the drugs, out of the chaos. But when you're tied down emotionally and financially and physically, leaving isn't that simple. I was told she was trying to leave, but never would have left without saying goodbye to those grandkids. She would have never left without saying goodbye. And looking back, it's clear. Crystal, she didn't disappear in an instant. She had been fading, though, fading in front of everyone for months. And when she finally was gone, it felt like the last piece of her had been taken, just not left behind. January 7th, 2017, That was 11 days after Crystal vanished, and the Morgan County Sheriff's Office finally organized the search. Stockport and Chester Hill fire crews, they volunteered their time to help find Crystal. Several acres around the property were combed and searched. It was bitter cold. It was the kind of cold that makes sounds echo. The woods were thick around there. Now, cadaver dogs were brought in, but they found nothing, no scent. And that means there was no decomp around there. There were no footprints, no trace of Crystal at all. And Jerry, well, he kept talking, but allegedly his stories kept shifting. And suddenly, now Crystal had taken $5,000 in cash and left. But the crack showed fast because that supposedly $5,000, no one, not her kids, not her family, had ever seen or heard of it. Now, Matt told me straight out.
That story never made sense.
And Shannon agreed.
There's no way Mom just left like that. She would have told somebody. She would have hugged her grandchildren goodbye.
And when you lay it all out, this doesn't look like a woman walking away. One of the most chilling details to me personally deal with that bottle of medication still in the house, not prescribed and not filled, because Crystal couldn't function without it. She could not literally survive without that. She didn't pack it. She did not plan it. And listen here, her family has spent years asking these questions. Was her phone ever pinged? Was Jerry's vehicle ever searched? Was he ever asked to take a polygraph? Was the property ever excavated? Were those people in the house ever questions? Now, these questions, nearly a decade later, still hang in the cold air with no answers. Okay, let's recap real quick so we'll be on track here before we move on. Now, December 25th, Christmas Day, that's when the family was together. December 26th, that was when Crystal was seen on Walmart security cameras running around looking like herself doing errands. December 27th, Shannon starts calling, no answer, straight to voicemail. December 30th is when she is reported missing officially. January 7th, the woods behind her house and around the house are searched, nothing found. After that, the trail goes cold completely. I don't know Jerry Corbin, never met the man. Everything I'm about to say is alleged or comes directly from Crystal's family or anonymous sources or news reports. And according to my research, after Crystal vanished, Jerry allegedly didn't act like a husband desperate to find a missing wife. He didn't organize searches. He didn't knock on doors, go door to door and hand out flyers. When Crystal's family confronted him, begging for answers, just begging, all they wanted was answers, he gave them nothing. No emotion and no urgency. And the more they learned, the more disturbing the picture became. Jerry had a criminal history, drug charges, theft, failure to appear in court, and then afterwards, not until after Crystal was missing, did they find out about the sealed charges involving minors. And let me be clear here, please. Everything I'm sharing here is backed by public record. Some of it's sealed to protect minors, and I'll definitely respect that. But the charges themselves are real. I've seen the court documents with my own eyes. And when someone faces serious allegations involving minors, even sealed ones, it raises difficult, ugly questions about what else may have happened behind closed doors. And it didn't end there. In 2020, Jerry was found wandering a road in Belpre, Ohio, and he wasn't alone. With him were two men. One had meth and the other had fentanyl. And Jerry was charged with obstruction and 2 felony drug counts. Years after Crystal disappeared, he was still knee-deep in drugs and surrounded by dangerous company. And now the house Crystal vanished from, it was hers. It was in her name. But in 2014, she and Jerry signed the deed over for $1. We heard from family it might have been because of some bankruptcy, that she was going through. But it wasn't even filed until 2020, 3 years after she had gone missing. There was no court, no probate, and no death certificate, just a quiet filing to claim the home where she was last seen. No one there to contest it. Legally, it was murky. Morally, it seems infuriating. This was a man with a pattern: manipulation, addiction, violence. And allegedly, he watched his wife disappear and never once fought to find her. But, there's no forensic ties to him to any crime. There's no forensic, there's no proof. He is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But there's no good alibis either. Now, Matt remembers the man Jerry used to be. He loves the man Jerry used to be.
I felt very close to Jerry growing up. He would show me how to fix things, take us fishing, and support our whole family on his own income, which wasn't much, mind you. He was a great father figure for the entire time I lived there. That's why it was such a shock to me to know how far he had fallen, with the drugs, the theft, and what happened with Mom.
When I asked Matt about Jerry's claim that Crystal took money, meds, and her purse, he didn't hesitate.
That was just going off what Jerry said. I don't think they had anything like that to even take with her, so he could have said she took $1 million. It's still just hearsay.
Hearsay and lies. And a man they once trusted and loved, now a stranger. When trust is gone, all that's left is suspicion. But beneath that suspicion is grief. Because before Jerry became the man wrapped in lies and addiction, he was someone Crystal loved, someone her boys looked up to. He was family. And that makes the loss even heavier. Crystal didn't just disappear. She lost her partner to darkness long before that Christmas Day. And her sons, they lost both of their parents to something bigger than drugs. They lost them to chaos, cowardice, and the kind of evil that creeps in quietly and tears everything apart. What happened inside that house didn't just steal Crystal. It stole the whole family they once were. And what's left now is heartbreak and questions that never stop echoing through the silence. Now, these next details are unverified. They come from multiple local accounts. They've been repeated over and over by people who say they know the case. By now, the timeline doesn't make sense. The behavior doesn't add up. And Crystal's disappearance, it doesn't look anything close to voluntary. In small towns, when someone goes missing, whispers move faster than facts. And in this case, the whispers, well, they're just hard to ignore. I'm not in the business of spreading gossip. I don't do that. But when multiple people with firsthand knowledge tell the same story, I do listen. I've done that in several other cases, and I do tell you that I can't verify it. There's just more than one or two people that are saying the same thing. That's all it is. And one or two rumors do stand out. And it's fresh concrete. Allegedly, not too long after Crystal vanished, new concrete was poured at the house. This was not a planned project, just a quick, unexplained pour. Again, this can't be proved. Now, another rumor, Jerry allegedly had access to industrial strength chemicals through his job at a car wash. Now, we're not talking everyday chemicals like you and I to scrub our house. These are the kind that can erase more than just dirt. Then there's one about the state of the house. It's overrun with cats, dozens of them, sick and dying. We hear that the smell is overwhelming. People, if that's true, please somebody reach out to the Humane Society or something. If he's sick, get help. If these rumors are true, please help. I don't care what he's done, what kind of person he is. Nobody deserves to live in that kind of condition. Those cats don't deserve that. Please reach out. That's terrible. That's what people are saying. The home used to be clean somewhat. I don't know. It used to be peaceful and warm for at least, grandchildren. And now it's rotting from the inside out is what we're hearing. Again, none of this has been confirmed by anybody, law enforcement or anything. This is just theories. We hope that law enforcement would take these pieces that we are saying and finally put them together and other things, but instead they and we are getting nothing but silence. The same line over and over again. There's no new information. But that silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means someone still out there is not talking. It's someone is holding back a piece of this puzzle. Crystal's sons have spent years sitting in the silence their mom left behind, replaying every conversation, picking apart every version of events, searching for something, anything that makes sense. And what's taken shape isn't what they want to believe. It's just the only theory that fits the pieces they do have. They don't believe she walked away. They don't believe she took her own life. And they definitely don't believe she left those grandbabies behind without a word. They believe whatever happened to Crystal wasn't planned. It was sudden, born out of the chaos inside that house. Maybe it was a pressure, the people, the drugs, the constant tension that never let up. Maybe it was one bad night, one bad mix, one bad moment that spiraled out of control. They believe Crystal overdosed, and they believe Jerry panicked. But he didn't panic for her. He panicked for himself. A man with drugs in the house, a criminal record, and a history of running from responsibility. And in that moment, instead of calling 911, instead of trying to save her, they believe he made a choice to get rid of her. Not buried out back, not dumped nearby, but somewhere far enough that nearly 10 years later, she still hasn't been found. And that's what cuts the deepest. Even if it wasn't an accident, her family never got the truth, never got to say goodbye. It's just a theory, but it's the only one that fits the silence, the fear and the lies, and the timeline. Until someone comes forward, it's all they have to hold on to. He may have faded from the headlines, but in the hearts of those who have loved her, Crystal's still here. And the pain hasn't softened. Actually, it's sharpened. And the pain that sharp has a way of turning into action. There was one officer Crystal's family tells me that they remember trusting. Back then, he was Detective Fisher. They said he listened and he showed up and he cared. But even he admitted there wasn't much to work with. No leads, no forensics, no body, no answers. Eventually, the case went cold. Recently, Sheriff Fisher confirmed to me that Crystal's case is still open and active. That should be a good thing. So I reached out and I asked for a tip line number, just something small to include on Crystal's flyer that we do for her. Now, the response I got, well, he told me that we shouldn't feature Crystal's case, and that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And with all due respect, I couldn't understand that. And I told him so. I sent him an email back asking and explaining that we were just going to bring awareness to the case. Well, I'm waiting for a response. I do have the son's blessings, and they participated, and we were already scheduled to go live. And I explained that silence doesn't protect Crystal. It protects whoever made her disappear. I also invited Sheriff Fisher to listen to the podcast episode, and I assured him that I don't investigate cases. I assured him that I wasn't a type of podcast that was going to come in and step all over the case. I do a lot of research. I do educate. I like to educate, and I advocate for each and every case. So when I was starting to research for avocation for Crystal's case, I wanted to ask general questions about how to handle and file a missing persons report in his county and other important questions. But because we are definitely not going to be thinking clearly when a loved one goes missing. And we never think something like that's going to be happening to Because a case, when it goes cold for nearly a decade, the last thing it needs is more silence. Because outside those walls, Crystal's headlines had already stopped, the calls had already slowed down, and Crystal, the woman who doodled hearts while Days of Our Lives played in the background, she begins to fade from memory already. And here we are, look at us, still trying to put together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. All this time, think about it, we're still missing the most important one, and that's Crystal. The system may have gone quiet, and the system may still want us to be quiet, but we can't. And we just need to be loud. We need to be louder. When Crystal first went missing, there was no massive search party. There were no helicopters in the sky, no boots on the ground, no dogs combing the woods of Morgan County. Her family says law enforcement really never organized a full-scale search for her. No grid mats, no tracking dogs, no sweep of the hollers, the creek beds, or the abandoned hunting cabins nearby. Those first 72 hours, the hours that matter the most in a missing persons case, the silence was deafening. It felt like her disappearance was treated more like a bad rumor than a crisis. But we have to remember that they were probably going by what Jerry was saying. Now, the rumors here, they are brutal, and December 2016 was no exception. The cold would have made survival hard, but cold also preserves and it hides. If anyone had searched those woods in those early days, maybe they would have found something. They didn't have a whole lot of hope, though, the family didn't, and their hope was heavy, and it still is, because every day that passed without answers made that hope harder to carry. Her sons still talk about those lost days, the days that might have changed everything. Because the thing about silence is it doesn't just keep secrets, it buries them. And that's where we're at, folks. Almost 10 years gone, and Crystal Ann Corbin is still missing. No arrest, no clear answers, no good reason why this case isn't solved. Her sons are still waiting. Her grandbabies are still growing up without her. And somewhere out there, someone is still carrying the truth like it's theirs to keep. We've got more questions than answers. And until somebody talks, that's exactly where we're going to stay. Now, for the next 21 days, we're going to walk through Crystal's case piece by piece, every detail and every contradiction and every hole in the timeline. But this isn't just about a campaign. It's about holding space for a woman the system has left behind. It's about keeping pressure on, even when the headlines are long gone. Crystal didn't just disappear from Lightner Ridge Road. She disappeared from her life, from her family, and from her community that still remembers her. That's why we started the Missing Pieces campaign. Each puzzle piece we're going to mail, post, and deliver, and it's going to be a reminder that this story isn't finished because Crystal's case isn't cold to us, it's still burning. We're going to light candles in her name. We're going to share the flyers. We're going to talk about theories and about whether it was an accident or somebody panicked or something even darker or maybe not. Every conversation, every post, everything we do matters. Because yes, this case is still open and it's still active, but it won't stay that way without people watching and talking. And at the end of our 21-day campaign for Crystal, we'll all get together online in a live virtual vigil on Facebook, in our Facebook group. And we're going to say her name. We're going to tell her story. We're going to remind whoever's out there that Crystal Corbin is not forgotten. Because Crystal isn't just a missing person. She is that mother. She is a daughter. She is a grandmother and a woman who laughed softly, loved deeply, and deserved more than silence. Crystal was more than a missing flyer, more than a case number, a friend who laughed and loved. She had her quirks. She didn't deserve this. If you know anything anything at all, please call the Morgan County Sheriff's Office at 740-962-1369. Even if it's small, it does not matter. Just tell the truth. Because as long as I have a mic in front of me and breath in my lungs, Crystal's story will not stay quiet. We're going to remember Crystal. We won't stop until the last piece is in place. Before I close, just a quick reminder, everyone named in this episode is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I'm not a lawyer, a detective, or a medical expert. I gather very public information. I present it to you for you to do your own research and form your own opinions. Death, Lies, and Alibis is for educational and entertainment purposes only. And that's it for this episode of Death, Lies, and Alibis. We hope that by shining a light on these local crimes, we spark something within you, our listeners. Because the truth is, solving these cases will take more than just our words. It's going to require the dedication and collective efforts of the entire community. Don't forget to hit the follow button on the podcast so you'll never miss an episode. To learn more about how to get your case featured on the show, or to get instant access to the case files and reports, plus documents and many free resources, go to our Facebook group, Death, Lies, and Alibis, and join today. Or email us at deathliesalibis@gmail.com. As always, be safe, stay alert, and never stop seeking justice.